Hey peeps! November was quite the month, wasn't it? It was a month that went by really quickly, and also I think it became a month where it was very important to come back to kind of the core aspects of my practice to support a lot of unexpected experiences and opportunities to heal emotionally at a new level. And so those core foundational aspects of my practice did really serve to allow me to feel comforted and supported, particularly in moving through, having to juggle a lot of different things, having a lot of different balls in the air, if you will. And I was surprised and intrigued by the decks that became the most used decks of the month. Now, some of them ended up being the most used because of my Patreon mini monthlies. And so when I go through, and I do about 64 of those a month, and so when I'm working with that energy, I find that there are decks that really like to hang out with community members there for those mini reads. And so that, compiled with regular readings and students and then live sessions with clients, does give me ample opportunity to work with decks that I'm not necessarily working with in my personal practice, but that I am building relationship with and finding ways into appreciating and understanding and connecting with. And so you'll see there are a few of these decks on this list. There are also a few that personally, really profoundly came forward and held beautiful space for me. And of course, I do want to give honorable mention to Tarot of Vampires and the Void Tarot, which still remain my daily draw decks every single morning as part of my practice. And so, as you guys know, I don't include them every month because it would be boring for you guys to watch me talk about the same two decks all the time. But I do want to just affirm that those two decks were faithful companions throughout November, and also really became very inspired parts of my practice as well. It was really fun to work particularly with the Void Tarot this month in that guidebook and have a little fresh nuance brought to ways that I'm interpreting and working with certain suits within the minor arcana. So that being said, this deck ended up getting used a lot towards the end of November, and this is typically an early spring deck for me. This is like March, April, May. So it's very interesting to me that the Lin Strider Tarot wanted to come forward and connect, particularly in professional reading, but then also like it started to flow into personal practice for me more towards the end of this month, November. I'm recording this on the 29th, so at the end of November. The Lin Strider Tarot by Cielo Thompson is a deck. It seems to be a deck where I think you either love this deck or you don't. I happen to be one of the people that really loves this deck, but it is typically for me very much a springtime deck. I don't typically work with it in the cold months, but more when the earth is waking up. I think she really came forward because there's a lot of spaciousness to intuitive interpretation that's presented in the imagery. There's also a spirit animal energy that's kind of hidden in the coding of this deck, I think. And so I have been feeling very called to more shamanic aspects of my practice and how I was trained this month. So I think that may be part of it. Also, the lightness, the blues, there's something very cold about the energy as I'm moving into the winter here. I almost said autumn. As I'm moving into the winter here in New Hampshire, in New England, there's a coldness this year that does make me think of silvers and blues. And I am already kind of tapping into the wisdom of Bone Mother from the cold. And so I think it's a precursor for more intensive work that's going to happen from an air element perspective during the months of December and January. So I guess it's not surprising that this is one of the decks that wants to speak to that. It's just that this isn't typically a deck that I'm turning to this time of year. So that is the Lin Strider by Cielo Thompson. That was both in professional and personal practice. Tarot of the Woodland Wardens by Jessica Rue was gifted to me by a wonderful viewer. And look at all the Nine of Pentacles vibes today. I love this deck so freaking much. I use this deck so much this month. And this was another one that bridged professional and personal practice. And I just love this deck. It feels like a dear, dear, dear older sister. You have that spirit animal energy held within it, of course, but also this feeling of traveling to another realm, you know, a realm in which these animals are interacting and telling stories. And it's like, I just want to be there. I want to be there. So I have really, really enjoyed working with this deck. If you like the Woodland Wardens Oracle, I think you're going to like this deck. And they really do play very well together. This is such a beautiful, beloved deck already. I'm so in love with her. I will say it is a chunkier deck. It's heavier. I do like to just state that for everybody because I do know some of you have smaller hands, and we've talked about this many times on the channel that, you know, it does make like a deck like that that's chunkier and heavier a bit difficult to work with, maybe on the regular when it's that uncomfortable. I have larger hands. I'm taller anyhow, so I just have larger hands, and I don't have an issue with it, but I will say I do find it to be heavier and bulkier than normal, much like the next deck on the list, which is the Ritual Tarot. This one really became the study deck that I thought Nameless One was going to be at the beginning of the month. I thought I was really going to be working with the Nameless One more throughout the whole of the month. I started the month till around the middle of the month when I did my witchy chat video, really connecting with the Nameless One, but then the Ritual Tarot came forward in an unexpected way. I have talked about in the past that I really do associate the Ritual Tarot with Kali and the water element, even though it visually almost lends itself to being more of an air style deck. Well, I had an interesting experience towards the end of this month. So I did use this in some community polls for my Patreon community. And it felt really, really lovely to do that. And then I had an interesting experience moving into this past week, which was Thanksgiving here stateside, where the Egyptian goddess Selkut started to come forward, and she really wanted me to work with this deck. And I've been very surprised because prior to this week, the energy of November of 2025, I haven't really connected personally with Selkut, much more Sekhmet, and much more, of course, Isis, and more actually of the sacred masculine in the Egyptian pantheon. Isis and I are pretty, when it comes to the Egyptian pantheon, Isis and I are pretty solid. But Selkut has recently come forward, and she wants me to use the Ritual Tarot with her. So here we go. I mean, I'm stepping off into that journey with her. So not only was I using this for professional readings and then the Patreon community as we were approaching the end of November, then this last week, over the last few days particularly, Selkut has come forward and said, this will be the deck I want us to work with. And so I have a feeling I'm going to be working with this one a lot this winter. You'll probably see it on my vault video, which should be coming to the channel here at the beginning of December. And so yeah, I'm excited because I love this deck. And it's so, again, it's got those blues. There's something about blues for me this winter, man. This deck has so many layers and levels to it. And it's so opulent. It's so delicious and decadent. And I come over the years more and more to appreciate how much it's in alignment with the Thoth system. And that gives me another window into connecting with this one. So as I've said many times, Tiera May is one of my most favorite deck creators out there. And this deck is no exception. And there's just another lens that's being uncovered as I work with this. And this is one of those decks where I'm so grateful a viewer gifted me. This is the original copy that the viewer gifted me. And then I've since purchased other editions of this deck myself, and making that investment has been well worth it. Let me say it that way. Anything Tiera May, Syrian Shadows, Zia Hunt, Lennox Rees of Hello Ivy Lie, anytime any of those creators, the creator of the Void Tarot, I don't want to mispronounce her name, anytime any of those deck creators are making decks, I want to invest, because I know there's such meat on the bone with the work. It's so powerful. And this deck, I'm like so lusty with this one again, and I'm really excited to see where I'm going to go with Selkit with this. And also with Scorpion energy. It makes sense that Scorpion energy is coming forward because I do have a great deal of Scorpio placements in my chart. So personally in my practice, I think it's time in my journey. I will say I do feel like my 40s are very much about stepping into my power. It's like the juiciest, most delicious thing. So I want to encourage you, if you are younger, babes, your 40s are going to be amazing. But this energy of Scorpion has kind of been knocking on the door. I've been working with serpent energy a great deal the last 2 years. In fact, I do have a tattoo plan to kind of put the cap on and sit and really signify that relationship with snake and serpent energy. But Scorpion energy has now started to come to the fore, and it's going to be interesting to see where that takes me. But I do know the Ritual Tarot will be a really big part of that. So that being said, next deck on the list is the Lubanko Tarot. I cannot even tell you, I use this deck for primarily, hold on guys, I got to go grab a tissue. For primarily every single mini monthly read that I did on Patreon. And this has factored into so many client readings this month. I unboxed it recently. Excuse me. And there is something about the artwork, the power to this deck, the beauty of the colors, the feel. I do need to be aware of some of the imagery because it can get me flagged on YouTube. There is just such a beauty and a ferocity, but it's a ferocity that's not based on physical strength or prowess. It's a ferocity that has to do with the heart. I think that's where I feel this one the most. And I just love her. And particularly this image. This image, for the rest of my life, this may be one of my favorite images of the Queen of Swords, in how I've come to understand her, in who she is. I gotta say, guys, I love this deck, and I really, really cannot wait to see where our relationship takes us, because it does feel something very akin to like Murder of Crows, the Void Tarot for me. It's not quite Void Tarot level, but it's close to that level of like, oh, I just get this deck. Like, we understand each other. We understand each other. We have a language already. It's just a stunning, stunning deck. And it has such a personality. At least I have found it to have such a personality. So this is the Lubanko Tarot. And I do highly recommend it if you've been on the fence about it. It is unique. It has a beautiful personality. And again, it's this ferocity of the heart, this power of when you are overcome by passion, by what you truly believe, by reverence. It just takes, when it takes you over like that, this is one of those decks that really holds that space so beautifully. Very unique deck. Okay, next on my list is the Sacred Symbols Oracle. I've talked about this so much, and I am going to do a further down the path video on this deck and one other deck in my monthly list, because I'm like, I have to talk about this deck more. I don't want to love this deck because it's popular, but it is a really, really accurate deck. It's not only accurate for getting symbols and signs from your gods, your guides, your ancestors. It's also a great deck to clarify tarot. It is short and sweet and to the point. It doesn't have any prevarication. It's not going to give you like layers and layers and layers of depth to explore. I do not feel romantically involved with this deck the way I do with the Ritual Tarot, the Lubanko Tarot, and the Tarot of the Woodland Wardens. But it's a powerful deck. And if you're a professional reader, I gotta say, it is a great one to have in your collection. It is a deck that I think like across the board, people can appreciate, and people can understand what the symbols mean for them, because it's not necessarily you know, you don't have to have like really deep occult knowledge or have studied any aspect of art history to understand what you're being encouraged to look for when it comes to signs with this deck. So I have to say this deck is great. This deck is worth its weight. It's real. It's the real deal. So if you have been on the fence about this one, or you're not sure, you're wondering, I can attest, I don't feel personally connected to the artwork, but I do find this deck to be very accurate, particularly in client readings. So that is the Sacred Symbols Oracle. Both Lubanko Sacred Symbols Tarot of the Woodland Wardens and Lin Strider Tarot are all mass produced. You can find them on Amazon. The Ritual Tarot is an indie deck, and Tiera currently, I believe, has a Kickstarter going for another edition, and then it's kind of like she's saying she thinks it's it. So I'm just putting it out there, guys. I'm just putting it out there. That's what she's saying. So next on the list is, I'm sorry, guys. I know I talk about this deck all the time, but this is one of my home decks. This is like one of my top 5s of all time. Like it always will be. And this is Syrian Shadows Earth and Bone Oracle. I just love this deck. I just do. I don't know what to say. It's like a home deck for me. It gives very insightful, deep answers, particularly related to people's spiritual paths. It's very connected to people's life purpose, soul purpose, spiritual path, messages from the goddess and from God. Goddess and gods. Particularly Hecate. Hecate really likes this deck. Hecate, Lilith, Babylon, the Morrigan, they really seem to like to speak through this deck for me, and also Persephone as well. So it's one that it's invaluable in professional practice for me because it really lets me get in deep. It's also invaluable to personal practice for me because it's like, it's not like, it is a conduit for conversation with goddesses and deity and gods that I walk with very intimately. So it's a win across the board for me. Now I do have the indie version, which doesn't have the borders. There is a mass-produced version you can get on Amazon. It does look a little bit different, but I think the soul of this deck is the same either way, and so you can still connect with it quite powerfully, even if you were not able to, excuse me, get the indie version. Okay, next on the list is Rose Bay Tarot's These Blue Bones Oracle. There's definitely a blue theme, isn't there? This deck is another home deck for me. She is becoming she's so close to my heart, and she's like the poetry of my soul. There isn't anything like this deck. This is an indie deck. I will put the link to purchase this deck. I believe it's still available to purchase off of Make Playing Cards, that website. But Rose Bay just... Where would we be without Rose Bay Tarot? I forgot to add her with one of the deck creators. She's on my list. I'm sorry, Rose Bay. You are right up there. You, Syrian, Tiera, Lennox, the creator of the Void Tarot. I don't want to butcher her name. All of you guys are just... I can't... Everything you do, I want to be able to work with it, to connect with it, because there's always something so powerful to get out of it. So Rose Bay knocked it out of the park with this one. It's so beautiful. It's so special. It's so, again, it's the poetry of my heart, and it's like talking to my heart. It's talking to Venus when I work with this deck. It's talking to Persephone when I work with this deck. It's Isis speaks to me through this one. There's so much beauty in this deck, and it's so special. I purchased multiple copies, so I have backups. That's how much I love this deck. And this month, it's really been like that place to go to write poetry with her and just let my heart feel. You know, outside of all the roles that I have to occupy on any given day, this deck has been a space for me to like just be Racine and not need to bring something to the table. And that feels so... that is a balm to my soul right now. So this deck is really, really special. And then my number one deck is the Loputyn Oracle. I can't show you all the imagery in this deck right now. YouTube is being a pain. But let me just assure you, this is a mass-produced deck. You can find it on Amazon. The Loputyn Oracle is one of a kind. I really like this deck for that kind of very tender, vulnerable interior work. This deck does not lie to you. So if you're not, I just need to make sure I show you imagery that doesn't have nudity in it. So if you are not in a space to hear that type of honesty, it may not be the exact right time to work with this deck. But if you are, this deck is invaluable. And she has such a loving personality. She's so much encouraging you to connect with the maiden within, but that's also married to the crone. And it's a deck for discovering yourself. So if you are trying to understand like who you are, again, kind of like what I was saying with these blue bones, outside of expectation in career, relationship, family, friends, children, pets, outside of any of those things, if you're trying to uncover like, who am I when I'm not defined by the roles of my life? Who is the witch within me that maybe I'm not listening to or hearing? This deck is one that can help you to uncover that aspect of the self and to allow parts of you that you've maybe hidden away or that you feel shouldn't get the light of day to come out and play and to be curious instead of judgmental about those parts of you. So this deck is invaluable to me. It's been my most used deck, both professionally and personally in November. Really, I've needed her. She's part of my daily draw crew, and I've just needed to connect with that energy, and she's so lovingly held that space for me. So I love the Loputyn Oracle even more. It's probably in my top 5 Oracle decks of all time now. It's definitely going to be in my top 5 Oracle decks, excuse me, of 2025 for sure. I cannot say enough beautiful things about this deck. So that's the Loputyn Oracle. That's my #1 most used deck for the month of November. So let me know what you guys have worked with. Let me know if any decks have surprised you that they came forward. Like I said, Ritual Tarot, I was not planning on connecting with the way that we did this month. So I would love to hear who you've been working with, walking with, and connecting with. And if any of them match up to mine, I am sending each and every one of you absolute oceans of love. And you know I will see you in the next video. Take care.